This is a continuation of Chapter 7 of Sanditon by Jane Austen. I may well reread the last paragraph or so from the previous video. Charlotte could think of nothing more harmless to be said than the simple inquiry of Sir Edward and Miss Denham. Yes, my dear, my young folks, as I call them sometimes, for I take them very much by the hand. I had them with me last summer about this time, for a week, from Monday to Monday, and very delighted and thankful they were, for they are very good young people, my dear. I would not have you think that I only noticed them for poor dear Sir Harry's sake. No, no, they are very deserving themselves, or, trust me, they would not be so much in my company. I am not the woman to help anybody blindfold. I always take care to know what I am about and who I have to deal with before I stir a finger. I do not think I was ever overreached in my life, and that is a good deal for a woman to say that has been married twice. Poor dear Sir Harry, between ourselves, thought at first to have got more, but with a bit of a sigh, he is gone, and we must not find fault with the dead. Nobody could live happier together than us, and he was a very honourable man, quite the gentleman of ancient family. And when he died, I gave Sir Edward his gold watch. She said this with a look at her companion which implied its right to produce a great impression. And seeing no rapturous astonishment in Charlotte's countenance, added quickly, "He did not bequeath it to his nephew, my dear. It was no bequest. It was not in the will. He only told me, and that but once, that he should wish his nephew to have his watch, but it need not have been binding if I had not chose it." "Very kind indeed, very handsome," said Miss Charlotte, absolutely forced to affect admiration. "Yes, my dear, it is not the only kind thing I have done by him. I've been a very liberal friend to Sir Edward, and poor young man, he needs it bad enough. For though I am only the dowager, my dear, and he is the heir, things do not stand between us in the way they commonly do between two parties. Not a shilling do I receive from the Denham estate. Sir Edward has no payments to make me. He don't stand uppermost, believe me. It is I that help him. Indeed, he is a very fine young man, particularly elegant in his address." This was said chiefly for the sake of saying something, but Charlotte directly saw that it was laying her open to suspicion by Lady Denham's giving a shrewd glance at her and replying, "Yes, yes, he is very well to look at, and it is to be hoped that some lady of large fortune will think so, for Sir Edward must marry for money. He and I often talk that matter over. A handsome young fellow like him will go smirking and smiling about and paying girls compliments, but he knows he must marry for money. And Sir Edward is a very steady young man in the main, and has got very good notions." "Sir Edward Denham," said Charlotte, with such personal advantages, may almost be sure of getting a woman of fortune if he chooses it." This glorious sentiment seemed quite to remove suspicion. Ay, my dear, that's very sensibly said," cried Lady Denham. "But if he would but get a young heiress to Sanditon. But heiresses are monstrous scarce. I do not think we have an heiress here, or even a co-heiress, since Sanditon has been a public place. Families come after families, but as far as I can learn, it is not 1 in 100 of them that have any real property, landed or funded. An income, perhaps, but no property. Clergymen may well be, or lawyers from town, or half-pay officers, or widows with only a jointure. What good can such people do anybody? Except just as they take out empty houses, and between ourselves, I think they are great fools for not staying at home. Now, if we could get a young heiress to be sent here for her health, and if she was ordered to drink ass's milk, I could supply her, and as soon as she got well, have her fall in love with Sir Edward. That would be very fortunate indeed. And Miss Esther must marry somebody of fortune too. She must get a rich husband. Ah, young ladies have no money, are very much to be pitied. But after a short pause, if Miss Esther thinks to talk me into inviting them to come and stay at Sanditon House, she will find herself mistaken. Matters are altered with me since last summer, you know. I have Miss Clara with me now, which makes a great difference. She spoke this so seriously that Charlotte instantly saw it in the evidence of real penetration and prepared for some fuller remarks, but it was followed only by, I have no fancy for having my house as full as an hotel. I should not choose to have my 2 housemaids taken up all the morning in dusting out bedrooms. They have Miss Clara's room to put to rights as well as my own every day. If they had hard places, they would want higher wages. For objections of this nature, Charlotte was not prepared, and she found it so impossible even to affect sympathy that she could say nothing. Lady Denham soon added with great glee, and besides all this, my dear, am I to be filling my house to the prejudice of Sanditon? If people want to be by the sea, why don't they take lodgings? Here are a great many empty houses, 3 on this terrace, no fewer than 3 lodging papers staring us in the face at this very moment. Numbers 3, 4 and 8. 8, the corner house may be too large for them, but either of the 2 others are nice little snug houses, very fit for a young gentleman and his sister. And so, my dear, the next time Miss Esther begins talking about the dampness of Denham Park and the good bathing always does her, I shall advise them to come and take one of these lodgings for a fortnight. Don't you think that will be very fair? Charity begins at home, you know. Charlotte's feelings were divided between amusement and indignation, but indignation had the larger and the increasing share. She kept her countenance, and she kept a civil silence. She could not carry her forbearance farther, but without attempting to listen longer, and only conscious that Lady Denham was still talking on in the same way, allowed her thoughts to form themselves into such a meditation as this. She is thoroughly mean. I had not expected anything so bad. Mr. Parker spoke too mildly of her. His judgment is evidently not to be trusted. His own good nature misleads him. He is too kind-hearted to see clearly. I must judge for myself, and their very connection prejudices me. He has persuaded her to engage in the same speculation, and because their object in that line is the same, he fancies she feels like him in others. But she is very, very mean. I can see no good in her. Poor Miss Brereton, and she makes everybody mean about her. This poor Sir Edward and his sister, how far nature meant them to be respectable, I cannot tell, but they are obliged to be mean in their civility to her. And I am mean too, in giving her my attention with the appearance of coinciding with her. Thus it is when rich people are sordid. End of chapter 7.